industrial and commercial to a foreign consortium. She gave us residential customers. She gave us the most difficult aspect of the market. For 6 months, I would have 2 vehicles. I had policemen, I had my electrical team, we had all the bills, people that were owing money. We would go onto the streets, we would go to your house. Now, basically, once we get to your house, apart from the bills you're owing, once we look at your building, if your wire goes into your roof, you're bypassing. Because we can't see the connection to your meter. So we know that straight away, something is wrong here. We also had people who, their service wires went straight into the ground, but we couldn't see. She wanted you to put your meter either on the pole or in front of the building. So we would look at your bill, we would disconnect you, we would tell you, come down to the office and let us have a discussion on how you will settle this. They will tell you, okay, yes, we will do this. Where is this? I said, the headquarters were there. We had created a section for it. The next day, we would pass through the same place. They would have put the wire back. This time, we would take the whole wire from the building and put it away. And we would insist. In a lot of these processes, we had community people challenging us. In fact, it got to some points where even our policemen with guns couldn't face them because they gathered themselves, because we started to take drastic measures, because we wanted you to come to the office to try and set out some kind of arrangement. In all of this, the biggest thing that we see is that nobody was afraid because there was no appropriate punishment. There was no enforcement. One of our recommendations to her then was that we needed to make examples. People had to end up in court. But she needed also further support to do that. She needed appropriate regulation, and she also needed the government's help to be able to achieve that. Because I can't imagine, one of the things that struck me while in Benin was the fact that I had policemen with guns, and you would come. There were times that they would advise us, let's back out of this place, because everybody ganged up against us. It was a very major issue. At a point, by the time we got to Benin Disco HQ, there was a protest outside. We couldn't go into the office because from the streets where we had gone to enforce, they had gathered themselves to come. And that was our biggest problem. We tried this in so many different areas. Don't get me wrong, we got some people who did come, but not as much, who came to structure something and say, I would put this in place. But the opposition was more than. And we kept on telling them, the electricity you get is not free. People are paying to manufacture, to bring this to you. You are complaining you are getting 2 hours, 3 hours. There are reasons why you are getting this. When you have a whole street on our rooster. Solutions are enforcement.
Okay.
Enforcement, regulation and enforcement. It's crucial. You have to make examples.
Do you need me just briefly a very simple question. They have access to electricity. You have a population of people who some don't have even income, but they are the amenities that government is supposed to live in.
Yes, sir.
How do you care? Because they don't have any income, are they supposed to be cut away? Are they supposed not to?
I don't think that's a policy. Headquarters of Benin Disco, the NGOs came outside and said they needed to see us. So we asked their leaders to come. And then we asked them, exactly this question. This is an enterprise, a private entity. Why would you form an NGO against a private entity so that you won't pay for power? If you need to protest, you protest to government and let government give you that. It happened right in front of me. And we had to engage that fellow. And the MD of Benin Disco, Mrs. Oshubodru, said that that particular set of people have been a thorn in their flesh. If they want to do any enforcement, they will go to police themselves and come back. And so it was impossible for the disco to operate. So there are so many issues here which I think that when if this committee approves that your nomination will be affirmed, when you get to NERC with your fellow commissioners, you can make recommendations to government. On that note, we want to thank you and ask you to take a bow and go.
Sir, in Nigeria we have, and that's Azura. Azura Power Plant has a partial risk guarantee signed that binds us to the tariff that was signed on that power plant. All the other power plants that we have agreements based on vesting contracts from NERC, based on the agreed tariff that they had given them. Those are the ones that are affected more by the subsidy, because the bulk trader, Nigerian Bulk Electricity, NBET, is the one that settles that. He settles the obligation for gas, and he also settles the obligation for the electricity consumed. The DISCO has as the point of collection for the entire value chain. Has the distribution, they have an obligation, a minimum remittance obligation, MRO, based on whatever power they receive. They have to try and make sure they collect what is there. Now, unfortunately for the DISCOs, is the one that goes through the metering problem, is the one that deals with the customers directly. The GENCOs don't actually deal directly with the customers. So one of the things that we've been introduced now that we're hoping to fully implement is the bilateral trading agreement, where the DISCOs can sign directly with the GENCO. Now, that would push the DISCO to try as much as possible to focus on bringing more customers in. But as NERC, we have to also be able to tell ourselves the truth that the customers have to pay. If you want investment to come in based on what the government is trying to do now, we have to be able to, most of these projects have to be bankable. So that means payment must be guaranteed to some sort. So we need to improve on metering. The DISCO is the one person that has that interface. We need to be able to allow them. One of the things we implemented in the law in Lagos State, the Lagos State government took away enforcement from the DISCOs. What we're trying to do with that is that we know that a lot of customers bypass. A lot of customers don't pay for the electricity, and we decided that the DISCOs have not been effective enough in implementing that collection. So the state government was better at collecting revenue. So we decided to move that responsibility to the state government. We would assist the two subcos as it is now to enforce collection. Most of the gaps in everybody's revenue is mostly customers that are not paying, customers that are bypassing, ATC and C issues. If you want to improve the network, you need to improve collections, because collections pays for what you are trying to do. So those are the kind of initiatives we put in place. That's why the DISCOs tend to suffer more. The generation company will tell you, I've put this on the line, look at my meter. The transmission company will tell you, look, I have my losses, there are certain issues, I need investments in transmission. But the DISCO is the one that pays everyone in the value chain, including a thermal plant where you get your gas. So the DISCO carries that burden. But at the same time, you have to support the DISCO in such a way that you have to be able to make sure that you help them as much as possible to be able to collect this revenue. That is the one way we'll encourage people to come into the sector.
Edo South Central District. I'm just picking up on the issue of non-collections, especially for those who bypass. I remember that in my area in Benin where I live, at the point we're having lights for maybe 3 hours a day. And I actually called the distribution company in Benin, BEDC, and they came, and I asked them why we're having only 3 hours of electricity supply. He said, look at this, your beautiful neighborhood. 80% of them bypass. And so they just give light for 3 hours, and they don't even know how much they collect of that. So the question for me now is this: how can they not be arrested can there not be some measures legally that can punish, you don't pay and you bypass? That's, for me, it should be an offense in itself. Isn't there a mechanism in place to arrest such persons and prosecute them so that at least people will stop doing it? The reason why a lot of people bypass is because there are no, there are no punishment meted on them. They do it, you come, and they bribe those people who come to them, and so they look away, and when they are broke again, they come back. And they bribe them again, and they give them that 3 months interval, they come back. So it has become an industry of itself. So isn't there something that can be put in place to discourage all of this?